Good morning, everyone. So today I've been asked to speak to you about moonshot thinking, or if Jawad was speaking about sort of poor man's innovation, today I'm going to be talking to you about the rich man's innovation, or at least how Google thinks about innovation. And what my presentation is about is actually what I've learned over the last 3 years whilst working at Google, and how Google works, and how we approach innovation. And what I'm hoping is that by going through this with you and sharing the privilege that I've had, you can understand how you can build sustainable innovation culture within your own organizations. So, everyone talks about innovation, right? A lot of people seem to assume that innovation is actually an accident, or it happens by chance. But what the reality is, innovation, like Jawad mentioned, is actually a process. It's an iterative process which involves failure, experimentation, and Jawad went on quite a bit to explain that in detail, so I'm not going to really get into it that much. But what's very, very important for everyone to take away is that you must have perseverance in order to really innovate. You must commit yourself to finding a better solution to the problem that you're trying to solve. It is not an accident. It is very much a process, right? What you need to understand as well is the most successful organizations understand that failure is an acceptable risk, but not just a risk, it is inherent in innovation, right? You cannot innovate without failure. If you happen to hit the jackpot on the first chance or your first iteration, you're lucky. What is actually required is the ability to take the hits, fall down, but get back up. And that's effectively what the innovation process is about. Guys? Sorry, just a second. We're having some technical difficulties. Absolutely. We're finding a better way right now just to get the presentation up. Thank you. So, what differentiates companies like Google from the other companies out there? It's not just the money, right? Google, yes, has tons of money. It's one of the most valuable companies in the world, but there are a lot of other companies that have tremendous amount of capital. They've been around for many, many years. Google's been around for all of 17, 18 years. The difference is that Google encourages failure. Not just encourages it, it embraces it. It's a part of our culture. That's not something you're going to hear a lot from large companies, that we embrace failure. But the reality is, if you want to be successful, you must embrace failure. Because it's only through the acceptance of failure that you're able to move on and find the right solution. If every time you fail or you hit a block in the road, you're going to sort of give up, you're never really going to find the right solution. So it's the ability to overcome failure and move forward that is the key to innovation. Why do we innovate? Because we honestly believe to reap great rewards, we must take great risks, which means we must be brave, we must be ambitious, and we must be audacious. When we do that, chances are we innovate. And when we innovate, we stand to sort of benefit from outsized rewards. And that's really what venture capital and what we're trying to do as startups, right? We're trying to innovate, we're trying to disrupt. So within Google, we have a saying, right? Which is that we are a moonshot company, right? We don't look to improve processes by 10% or innovate by just sort of competing with what's out there. We're trying to undertake what are known as moonshots. Moonshots are ideas or problems that we're trying to solve, or solutions that we're trying to come up with that provide 10x improvement, right? So you want to be 1,000 times better, or at least 10 times better than the pre-existing solutions out there solving the problem. We believe by putting in the effort, by putting in the time, by failing enough times, by trying to find the right solution, when we are able to find the final solution, we will reap those rewards more so than any of our competition. So what I want to share with you now is a video which describes Google X. How many of you have heard of Google X? Right, a few of you. So Google X is an Alphabet company, used to be a part of Google itself. And this company has only one mission, right? Its mission is to solve the world's greatest and most pressing problems: connectivity, energy, health, healthcare, delivery of healthcare, whatever you can name. They have been funded, they have unlimited funds. They have the most talented folks working for them. They've got more PhDs than any other private organization in the world working for them. They have been given permission to fail. And their only mission is to find the solution. And we're just going to talk a little bit about the ethos and why we do this. Can we play the video, please? Really?
Moonshot is wonderful, inspirational, poetic, beautiful, involved.
You're killing me. Seriously.
Great technical challenges, genuine heroism. It brought the world together. But think about the Polynesian islander on the dugout canoe, deciding one day they were going to go that way. No one had ever been that way before. No one even knew if there was anything that way before. It was amazing. The actual moonshot is wonderful, inspirational, poetic, beautiful, involved great technical challenges, genuine heroism. It brought the world together. But think about the Polynesian islander on the dugout canoe, deciding one day they were going to go that way. No one had ever been that way before. No one even knew if there was anything that way before. It was amazing, and it changed the world.
People can set their minds to magical, seemingly impossible ideas, and then through science and technology, bring them.
It's a powerful video, so I suggest we do actually watch it. So we'll just persevere. Are we going to be able to play it or no, guys? Yeah, so I don't think we're going to be able to play it, but we can move on to the next slide. That's fine, guys.
To reality, and that then sets other people on fire, that other things that look impossible might be accomplishable.
Galileo is such a hero, in thinking big, and what he represents to me is both curiosity and wonder that humanity had, that he had, that pushed him and drove himself to invent and work on the first telescopes that allowed us to see the moon, and here we are.
These aviation pioneers were figuring it out as they went. No one really knew how to build an airplane, right? No one knew how to fly an airplane. It was amazing and crazy and wonderful, and they wanted to explore.
Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said, because it is there.
There's so many challenges in the world, and you can feel daunted by that, and sort of oppressed by that, or you kind of say, how might we think differently about this?
Everyone else in the world is working on the next 10%. If you can be the one that delivers that 10 times improvement, you have a chance to really change things.
If you want cars to run at 50 miles per gallon, fine, you can retool your car a little bit. But if I tell you it has to run on a gallon of gas for 500 miles, you have to start over.
You need a lot of courage in this work, and you need a lot of persistence. One of the things that's really critical is not only having the courage to keep trying every day or thinking big, even if you don't really 100% believe it's possible, like you might think this might be possible, have the courage to try. That's how the greatest things have happened.
You don't spend your time being bothered that you can't teleport from here to Japan, because there's a part of you that thinks it's impossible. Moonshot Thinking is choosing to be bothered by that.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Humanity's progress has been a series of amazing, audacious things, from the very small and personal up to the great, big, and grand. And we are a species of moonshots. And to me, that's like the really amazing, poetic, and inspirational thing.
I think our ambitions are a glass ceiling on what we can accomplish.
When you find your passion, you're unstoppable. You can make amazing things happen. It's been true through all of history.
I believe in the human spirit, and I believe that there are always going to be crazy people who will get out of bed one morning and say, you know what? I think I can build a space elevator, and we'll just go and do it. But I think that if we become afraid to take these great big risks, we stop inspiring people. We stop achieving things. And the biggest nightmare scenario is that we won't have what it takes to solve the really big challenges.
When Kennedy said that we would put a man on the moon, it's about the fact that he said, we don't know how to do this yet, and we're gonna do it anyway. And that sends chills up everybody's spine. Because if that happens, what couldn't we do?
Pretty powerful, right? So that's basically the ethos of Google X. And this sort of thinking sort of percolates throughout the entire organization. So even when we're talking about the business side of things, it's not difficult when we don't get weird looks when we say we want to grow our business 10x, right, over a period of 1 year, or anything along those lines. So it's audacious thinking, and that sort of penetrates through the entire organization, which is why Google today is one of the most innovative organizations in the world, right? Can we move on to the next slide?
Wasn't the world together. On the dugout canoe, deciding one day.
The next slide, please. So Google Docs is something we're working on. We're still innovating this. Okay, but yes, that's Google. How does it apply to you? And we're not saying that it doesn't matter how much money you have, or how many people you have, or what your environment is. What we are really saying is that the most important thing is expectations within your organization. If all you expect is people to hit home runs every single time, they're going to be afraid to take risks. They're going to be afraid to innovate. But when you create a culture where failure is acceptable, where failure is expected, then you're going to automatically find that people are willing to take bigger risks. They're really willing to innovate. They're willing to be and put themselves in uncomfortable positions, which is what folks at Google do all the time, because we're always now striving for 10x versus 10%, right? What we're able to do as a result is what you're going to see now, right? So self-driving cars, we've been working on it for years, right? And the reason for that is 8 years ago, 9 years ago, someone decided that this is something that just may be possible, right? And this would deliver potentially a 10x improvement in the way we transport ourselves across the world. So we started working on it. And we have failed multiple times, but this is what it looks like today. How many of you heard of Waymo? Anyone? Right? So this is what Waymo is. So this has now become its own company within the Google sort of ecosystem, and now they're commercializing this technology. But it's not just that. How many of you heard of Makani? Right? One person. Makani is a windmill, electricity generating sort of windmill that floats in the sky, right? In near orbit. This is something that was a crazy idea that someone thought might be possible, right? And they start building it. And eventually, it's now being commercialized. So initial implementations are happening. How many of you heard of Loon? Balloon-based internet, right? Deployed in Sri Lanka, and they're talking about deploying it in Puerto Rico after the earthquake right now. So, they're literally put air balloons which beam internet access to sort of non-accessible areas. And again, just an idea, and just had the bravery and I guess the funding to experiment and get to the end result. How many of you heard of Amazon and drone deliveries, right? Everyone's heard of it, yeah, they're gonna fly drones to you, etc. We've been working on it as well, probably for a little bit longer. In fact, we are basically now commercializing the technology. Can we play the video, please?
Project Wing is aiming to transform transportation. We want to make it easy, cheaper, more environmentally friendly to receive packages, items, whatever you may need. And if we can increase the access and availability of items to anyone across the globe, whether you're in a disaster zone or you're stuck at home at night and need some medicine for a child, whatever it may happen to be, we aim to make it easy and effective to receive things in a moment's notice. Our goals in Australia are to learn what it's like to actually bring this technology to the real world. We really need to test the technology with people. We want that first-hand feedback so we can make it better and we can develop a system and a product that is actually what people want, that actually delivers value that they find useful.
I think that personally for me, as a merchant, if we were able to get drone delivery out here, it would be fantastic for my business, because we do not get couriers that will come out here. They complain that it's too far out. Some have just refused completely.
We are very limited in our time that we have at home, and when I do have to go to town because I've run out of something or forgotten something, it is quite painful. So having this service for those that are time poor would be a fantastic thing.
You could be in the middle of a paddock in a real farming situation, and instead of packing up and going home for the day, that could be there in 10 minutes. You could be flown in and you put it on whatever you got to fix, and then you keep going. And the convenience of that is just, endless.
We were initially apprehensive. The main concern, I guess, was that the animals might be affected in the area, and especially our sheep and alpacas. So I watched the animals when they first arrived, and the alpacas were looking alert initially, not frightened, just alert because there was new noise around. And then on the second delivery, the drone came down, the alpacas didn't even lift their heads, and half the sheep were just, looking at it, so it was very straightforward.
The service so far has been spot on. It's amazing to see how the drone positions itself to the exact position every time, and it has been very, very quick. Within a couple of minutes, we've got the delivery here. Seeing what it can do in the future is mind-boggling actually.
So let me ask you a question. Could we build this here in Pakistan? Yes? Do you know how many drone manufacturers we have in this country? At least 6. At least 6. If we can build a fighter jet, I'm pretty sure we can build a drone, right? And we definitely know how to fly them as well, right? So it's just about taking on the challenge and just being audacious enough to say that there is a potential solution here and just working your way to it. This is not something, innovation is not unique to Google. It's just the culture. That I wouldn't even say that's even unique. It's just that we emphasize on it much more than any others, right? So one of the key elements of innovation within Google is we don't build a business plan when we're trying to innovate. We figure the money will come, right? The idea is to find the best solution and figure out a way to monetize it later. Does it always work? No. But most of the times, like in Google X's case, we've commercialized about 8 of the 26 projects that are already out there, which is a pretty high success rate, right? What's more important is if you try and commercialize or monetize ideas at a very nascent stage, you end up killing them. What you really need to happen is let the craziness blossom. And that's what Google does really, really well, which is why you consider us crazy, innovative, amongst other things, right? So I'm sort of running out of time, but I really want to leave you guys with a couple of thoughts, right? Innovation's a buzzword. Everyone's talking about it. It's sort of the trend these days. And many people believe in innovation, right? And they believe in thinking big and audaciousness, and they'll put it on the walls of their offices, they'll put it on T-shirts, etc. But the reality is saying that is useless, right? If you truly want to be innovative, what you need to be able to do is support people when they take risks, but not just support them when they take risks, support them when they're audacious and specifically when they fail. It's what you do when they fail that matters, right? What you need to do is pick them up, you need to encourage them and get them to try again. That's the culture of innovation that you need to cultivate, right? Failure is necessary, right? It is good and it is to be celebrated. And I'll give you the best example I have at Google. At Google X, for example, on the engineering side, people are promoted for failing. Right? Now think about whether that would be even possible within the context of your organizations, right? The chances are the answer is no. But it has happened in Pakistan, and while I've run out of time, there's a great anecdote. But think about what that means within the context of your own organizations, right? In my opinion, for the startups and entrepreneurs here, the biggest mistake would be honestly to be able to be thinking too small, right? And how do you know you're thinking too small? Every morning, what I suggest you do, get up and when you're brushing your teeth, look in the mirror and ask, am I thinking big enough? And if the answer is yes, and while you're thinking about it, you get a little bit scared, but at the same, a little bit excited, you know you're thinking big enough. Because if you're not scared, then you're not thinking big enough, right? That's it. Thank you. Do we have time? We don't have time, but we'll take a question. Okay, really quickly.
Not a question, that was actually an exercise that I think will be very helpful. We've got so many startups in this room, people with the best ideas. It looks like an episode of Silicon Valley here, which is great. If we can just have a few people who have launched companies, who are in the process of launching companies, to come in and just share how they're thinking and how they can actually convert their thinking pattern into a moonshot thinking pattern. I think that will be really helpful.
I think that's a great idea, but can we do it, as an offline during the tea break? That would be great. Otherwise, we disrupt the program. We have two panels beyond startups, so some of those things will come up. Okay. But as an exercise, we can do it as a sideline, unfortunately not in the main program. Thank you.
Thank you.